Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we are going to we're going to preview who's number 122 in Costa Mesa, California, headlined by Nick Rodriguez versus Victor Hugo. As always on the show, I'm your host, Mange, and my co-host,
Miranda.
Hey, Miranda.
Pretty good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Let me get to the intro correctly. So, not a whole lot of news this week. Not a whole lot of really anything. We've just gotten out of the drought. We had Euros last week. Was really happy with how that show went. We have a bunch of other events happen this week. We may touch a little bit on Fight to Win 245. I had a match with Helena Krovar. We'll touch on that probably after the preview section.
In Nashville.
Helena Krovar looked very, very good, and we know that wasn't much learned there, but looked very good. As far as news goes this week, I don't really think there's anything. People are really prepping for ADCC Open, which is the last one before trials.
They announced the first PFL person.
Ooh, yeah, Majid is in that.
Yeah, which he's just. I think
we all love Majid.
I think they picked him because he's just an entertaining dude probably to follow around.
Majid comes to
bring
it.
But he just seems like he. But isn't that like a reality show too? Don't they?
I assume it. I don't know. Majid will be.
So I think he would be
a hoot to have around.
I think he'd be fun just to like chill with.
Yeah.
They have a. There's a Costa Rica. That's not Costa Rica. It's Dominican Republic, like 7-day trip with Roberto Jimenez.
Ooh.
It's like $1,200.
Are you gonna do it?
I've debated.
You're thinking about it.
I don't know about it. I don't know. That might be too much. Might be too much for me.
So other than that, I think we have no other news. I just figure we get into the show this week.
Yeah.
So let's kick it off. Main event of who's number 122 in Costa Mesa, California. Nick Rodriguez versus Victor Hugo. This is a rematch, and it's a rematch that we've seen twice. We saw it first at
What is a rematch when it's the third rematch? Is there a name for that?
If they go 1-on-1, it's called a rubber match.
Okay.
So if they're 1-1, but in this case, Victor Hugo has beaten Nick Rodriguez twice, so it's not a rubber match, it's just a trilogy.
Okay.
So it's like, I got that wrong years and years ago, and Josh called me out on the show about it being a rubber match versus not a rubber match. So Victor Hugo first beat Nick Rodriguez at Fight to Win 135 in 2020, and then beat him again at Third Coast Grappling 6 in 2021. That was 3 years ago.
That was a different
2.5 years ago.
That was a different Nicky Rod.
Very different guy.
He even will tell you now, he didn't know how to pass.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and so
he says, I didn't know how to pass, and all I knew was a rear naked choke. I think that's what he says.
And a cartwheel pass, essentially, is what it was. And he said that on the show, on his podcast, and numerous interviews. When I've talked to him, he said that. Realistically, if you go back and watch, we very briefly watched the Fight to Win 135 match. I remember covering that on the show because it was a big question back then about his passing. And then the Third Coast Grappling match. Basically, the biggest pieces of those matches were, hey, we know Victor Hugo has one of the best big man guards in the game, in the sport. And at that point in time, we were still seeing Nick Rodriguez starting to develop the body lock passing.
Yeah.
And you could see him like actively working and improving that and working it and trying it and trying to get around. But Victor Hugo, at that time, and probably still now currently, one of the best big guard players in the sport, Nicky Rod wasn't able to get it done.
Yeah.
Now, with all the developments and all the big guys that we've seen Nicky Rod pass, it kind of makes me question, like, well, this might be a really interesting rematch because Victor Hugo's game, it's improved, but really it looks very, very similar to kind of the guy we saw in 2021.
True.
Versus, 2020, it's 4 years old. It's a pretty old match at this point. As far as like the development for Nick Rodriguez. Nick Rodriguez is also a pretty substantial favorite in this match, which I thought was kind of funny. If you look at the odds on Flow, I don't actually have them up on a different tab here. Nick Rodriguez is right now a minus 300 favorite.
Yeah.
Which, it's very funny considering that Victor Hugo has won the last two of these matches, but because there's been such a kind of a time difference... Yeah. It's also, if you look at ADCC, Nick Rodriguez again got silver at ADCC. Victor Hugo loses to Gordon Ryan in division and doesn't medal, I don't think, last time.
Well, in Victor Hugo, we had that performance against Big Dan, at the Fight Pass Invitational, where we learned that he really isn't afraid of very large men coming after him.
No, not really at all.
So I don't think, there's the...
And that was a rematch with Big Dan, too.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a worry there either of Nicky Rod kind of being imposing.
Right.
Like, he's imposing because of his strength and his ability and his skill, but not being just, I'm bigger than you, imposing. If that makes any sense.
Whereas Big Dan will very much leverage the size against almost everyone.
He growled at him, remember?
Yeah.
So, and he still won.
There's that.
I don't think Nicky Rod probably growl at you.
Maybe.
He might.
I think the big difference, let's get back on track here. I think the big difference for this is again, the passing from Nicky Rod, the using of the body lock pass. I also think if we now start to see Nick Rodriguez, look at his match versus Yuri Simões, the Fight Pass Invitational, like that is a different level of comfort in the guard, passing, getting around than we've ever seen him have before. Like the Yuri Simões match, again, Yuri is absolute champion for ADCC. Best, one of the best guys in the world by far, all around, long-standing great grappler. Nicky Rod can pretty substantially beat him in that match, but it's not substantially, like pretty definitively beat him in that match. Victor Hugo plays a much different game. I'm curious to see if Victor Hugo is going to kind of have watched that match and okay, I'm dealing with a much different guy. We've seen Victor Hugo play a lot of like open big guy guard. He does have a tendency to go toward the legs on bigger guys. We've seen him do it versus, I think Kynan, Cyborg numerous times.
Well, Kynan
in their
because
matches.
he knew that he could probably get
I don't remember the Kynan match though. I know Victor Hugo kind of went. I forget how that match went, so I don't want to speak out of turn.
I know he tried on Marigali, right?
I think so.
But that was in the gi. That was at the Master Worlds thing, whatever that invitational was.
Crown?
Yeah.
Or GP?
No, it wasn't. It was the GP.
GP, yeah.
He tried that, but Marigali was...
Marigali's Marigali.
But it was also the gi, which is also a different, animal.
We know Victor Hugo does the knee bars and the heel hooks in both. I am curious if we're going to see Victor Hugo try to go for Rodriguez's legs, because if you look at, again, the other issues, not historically, but Nicky Rod has had a couple of issues with leg lockers, in his career so far. If you now are not as comfortable in the guard as you were previously with Nicky Rod, and again, the fight to win match and the Third Coast grappling match, do you go into Nicky Rod's legs? But we know that's another area that Nick Rodriguez has been improving as well.
Yeah, but then maybe you don't go for, your standard heel hook that everybody knows how to get out of. You go for like a knee bar.
Yeah.
Like how often do people, unless you're you and your wife, throw knee bars regularly at people?
Yeah, and Victor Hugo, I think, has has the best big guy knee bar in the game. Like, go back and watch. I want to say it was could have been 2018. 2018, he went back and forth with Cyborg in an absolute in Nogi at Nogi Worlds, and I think Cyborg beat him once, and then he knee barred Cyborg in either weight or absolute. And I always conflate the two, but there's a transition there that Victor Hugo was very, very good at for the knee bar. And I'm curious if we see that come back in the Nick Rodriguez match here.
I would think more of a knee bar than a heel hook.
Yeah, I think the rotation you're going to struggle with Nick Rodriguez. We did see Nick Rodriguez get heel hooked by Gordon, and then he's got heel hooked by Kynan after the first ADCC. He was in like early 20.
But that was
19,
before,
late 2019.
I'm sure before all the time that he's now spent at B Team doing heel hooks.
Literally years ago at this point, like Nicky Rod literally between the first Victor Hugo match in 2020 and this match has more than doubled his training time, and he now has multiple. He went from having an ADCC medal to having multiple ADCC medals. Completely different guy. I do think the minus 300 favorite, and Victor Hugo is a plus 235 underdog. I do think that's maybe a little wider than I would put it. But again, a lot of those odds are popularity odds as well. And Nicky Rod is one of the biggest guys in the sport, popularity-wise. I'm going to give the edge to Nick Rodriguez here. I don't think he's going to submit Victor Hugo, but I kind of do think he'll pass, and I kind of do think we'll at least see him around the guard. Victor Hugo will definitely be able to regard, but I think we're going to see a pretty imposing top performance from Nicky Rod. Do you think in the wrestling, Victor Hugo elects to pull, or do you think this is a protracted wrestling match? I didn't really think about that till just now.
No, I think he pulls.
You think Victor Hugo pulls, comes to guard, plays open hand, double seated guard?
That's normally his jam. Like I don't see him as thinking that he would be superior to Nicky Rods wrestling.
Right.
Because you almost have to, like, if you're going to stand with somebody like that, you almost have to have the understanding that yours is better than theirs.
Yeah, especially the heavyweights,
Or-
where it's like you can
yeah.
lean him or slow him
Or
down. That's
you-
not a tactic
yeah.
you really want to use with Nick Rodriguez. He's not really
Or
gonna
you
be
can grab,
cowed.
like, a guillotine, or you can grab some
Right.
kind of counter. But somebody like that, like, would you...
It's probably not an effective strategy.
Would you stand...
Probably not.
No.
I think Victor Hugo's going to be taller than Rodriguez, but probably not by much. He's not going to be...
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a little longer, but not substantially. I think...
Yeah.
Again, every time this match has come up and every time we've talked about it and broken it down, we've kind of had similar points.
I would be even putting Nicky Rod in, like, almost like a full guard, like a full locked guard.
Yeah.
Might be just, something like that, just because that might fuck him up. Like, he might be like, he can't body lock pass at that point. Like,
Right.
He can.
You're stuck.
Yeah, he can.
But
maybe
again, how are you going to win? How are you going to win a decision if that is your strategy from the bottom? Is my
piss him
question.
off and then take his back.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? Because, like, if you put him in your full guard and your legs are strong enough, because Victor Hugo plays enough guard, my understanding is he probably has
He has insanely strong legs. Yes.
That if you pull somebody into full guard and their body lock pass no longer works, they have to Sao Paulo pass. If they do that, they don't keep their underhook well enough, you're going to take their back. Or they're going to do something stupid in order to get out of that full guard. And when they do that, you capitalize and you just go.
Yeah.
Like, that almost would...
From a strategy perspective, I see what you mean. I just don't know if we'll see that from Victor Hugo.
Yeah.
We could. Again, Victor Hugo we've seen him play slower guard games before, but I just think Rodriguez is too much to hold on to.
You almost have to
in Nogi,
because you're going to have to contain him. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to contain him quick. It's going to be
and it's a main event match, so I think it's a 15-minute match.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to give the edge to Rodriguez. I think Rodriguez will be able to get his passing going. But I wouldn't be surprised here to see Victor Hugo have moments like almost sweeps, getting on top at one point, but probably being unable to stabilize Rodriguez on the bottom would be my guess. But I think it's a more grindy match.
It might be boring.
I kind of honestly think it looks a little bit like the Yuri match, where it's like you see big pressure and advancement from Rodriguez late. Yeah. Typically, where Victor Hugo like hits the gas, like we saw in the Big Dan match.
Yeah.
We see that from Nick Rodriguez. So it could be fun. Again, I think the third match at this point in the career for both Victor Hugo and for Nick Rodriguez is really interesting, because this will be the...
I think Nicky Rod, it seems like, is also trying to go through everybody he's lost to and kind of win back.
Which I like.
Because he did that.
I like that.
He did that to Yuri.
Yeah.
So I think he's doing that to Victor now.
Hey, the revenge tour. I love a good revenge tour. The Crow Cop revenge tour was my favorite revenge tour.
Crow Cop was fun.
That was a great revenge tour.
Yeah.
So again, I think I'm going to go Nick Rodriguez. I think his passing has improved greatly. I think his leg lock defense and offense, honestly, has improved greatly. I think that Victor Hugo, the style of game that he's going to play, we've seen in 2020, we've seen in 2021 in this matchup. It worked very well, but I think the developments that Rodriguez has made, again, specifically in the passing, are going to lead to the dynamics of the match being a little bit different. Again, seeing a three-peat wouldn't surprise me. But I think Rodriguez is not the same dude we know he was, 3-4 years ago. Also, one funny note here. On Nick Rodriguez, you found this because you were doing research here. On Nick Rodriguez's record, it's listed, he has Pedro Mourinho and Victor Hugo in a 2014, two different 2014 matches. Yeah. I think it's really funny.
It goes for Pans. It says IBJJF Pans in 2014.
And you texted me. I was like, what? When was that? And so we did some Victor Hugo math.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, Victor Hugo was born in... 97. I was like, okay, so he would have been 17 when that happened. I was like, okay, well, definitely, because occasionally that weird stuff is actually correct. Yeah, it's rare. It's really rare.
And sometimes it's something weird, like they were both blue, like because
it was a blue belt match.
Well, yeah, it's like when you look back and you see the Mica versus Tynan match, but they were both purple belts, like that kind of shit, where like it happened.
There's an intersection or crossing, or like Nicholas Margali and Edwin Najmi at purple belt.
Oh,
and Najmi flying triangled him in the absolute.
Oh, okay.
And it was like when Nicholas Margali's, it's the reason why he didn't double Grand Slam that year. Oh, okay. It's because of that triangle at the Worlds, because Najmi got pissed he lost his division with absolute. Uh-huh. So there's those weird crossovers, like that match happened? Yeah, it was a purple belt. So we looked and it didn't happen because we were like, Nick Rodriguez wouldn't have started training for another 2 years. Yeah. And so maybe he did.
Nah, he didn't start until 2018. I looked. It said 2018.
Oh yeah, we were doing the podcast. Yeah. Right. Okay. So.
And he was only 6 months in when he competed in 2018.
He did a blue belt event. He did Nogi Pans, I think, or Nogi Worlds. Yeah. He won that, and then kind of goes the ADCC route. So that's that matchup. Super exciting. I think the odds are a little wider than they should be, but it's a really good main event matchup. Moving on to the men's welterweight matchup, we have Mica Galvão versus Kenta Iwamoto.
This should be a fun match.
Yeah.
It might not be a very long match, but it'll be a fun match. Let's say it that way.
So we were looking at both Kenta and Mica. I keep calling him Mica. I keep calling him Mica.
Mica
Galvão.
Yeah.
Let's go with that for now until I change it inevitably in 5 minutes.
Mica.
Kenta's had some amazing performances recently. Go back and watch his it's against a loss. His loss to JT Torres at ADCC, the World Championships in the first round. It was one of the closest matches we've seen JT Torres in a long time. JT then goes to lose to PJ Barch in the next round, but it was just an impressive wrestling performance versus then the two-time ADCC champion go into in that tournament. Mica Galvão has been dating multiple time senior world champion
Amit Alora.
I think you got a name earlier on the pre-show. And we've seen, go back and look at the Jacob Rodriguez match, go back and look at the Cody Steele match, go back and look at the PJ Bart match. Yeah. And so Mica Galvão's wrestling has been rapidly improving.
Yes. And
you can see that in his Who's Number 1 170 bracket and in his title defense against Cody Steele that he had most recently.
When he completely suplexes him on his head.
Both of them. Both J-Rod and Steele, he did it in those matches. I don't think... See, we went back and forth in the pre-show. I think Kenta has, you brought it up, has really, really interesting counters.
He's a really good counter wrestler.
Yeah.
But he's a really good wrestler, period. But he's also has these very creative counters, which we saw in like trials. At one point during Asian trials, I don't even remember what it was. Something wild because I remember videotaping.
It was like a fireman double counter that he
was freaking. It was like a fireman. He did like a rollover and
then got like a reverse body lock on the back halfway through it as he came over. It was a wild transition. But again, and we've seen that kind of consistently from Kenta. I love Kenta. In the last year, he has a loss to Dante Leon. He has a loss to William Tackett. He's lost Dante by armbar. He has a loss to William Tackett on Rival 2, 8-6, which is a really good match. If you get a chance, you should actually go back and watch that match. It's a lot of fun. And then he has the loss to JT Torres in 2022. Has a win over Joseph Chen a couple of years ago when Joseph Chen was kind of a different guy. Mica Galvão has looked goddamn near unstoppable. I think Mica takes this. I think we both think that Mica's going to be able to armbar Kenta. I don't know if he gets Kenta's back and if he's able to stall Kenta out long enough to get his back. I could see it, but I think with the flying armbars that we've seen from Mica recently, I think that's we're both kind of banking on that. Look at the Jacob Rodriguez matches. He had Jacob Rodriguez in multiple armbars. He does rear naked choke Cody Steele, but he seems to want to settle Cody Steele down a little more with his movement and transitions. That's kind of why I'm back and forth between if Mica's going to go for the armbar or the rear naked choke, which are two of the main things that he goes for with Kenta, because Kenta has a very similar movement style to both Jacob Rodriguez and to Cody Steele.
I could also see Kenta because he does have that wrestling base that he goes to more of a turtle than on his back a lot, which means your back is taken.
And a lot of the ADCC guys, that's kind of a hallmark of ADCC is because you essentially in ADCC, the way that takedowns are scored, if you take down the turtle, it's non-scored. Yeah. So a lot of guys will go, instead of going to their back on a takedown, will go to the turtle on a takedown and can't get turned over. It ends up being non-scoring. It is interesting though that Mica Galvão has essentially went against a division of wrestlers. He went against PJ Barch for the title at the 170. Yeah, but after going against...
That didn't count.
I mean, PJ Barch was a little knocked out there, but after going against Jake Rodriguez, and then has also gone against Cody Steele. So the last 3 matches we've seen him in, and again, he did the Europeans too, and all that European stuff. But in Nogi, let's go back to Nogi, and he fights Kenta again, a guy that we know for a dynamic game, but also a lot of wrestling. I think Mica wins by sub. I think he probably gets there off of some combination of takedowns.
I think that's also what the 170 division is. If you think about men's 170, it's a lot of wrestly dudes.
Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of like a substantial guard player.
At least currently.
In Nogi, yeah, who's like a
170 is your like first cutoff, is your first like real division, because not division but difference, because
you gotta learn how to wrestle.
Like 55 you can still get away with playing on your ass.
Yeah, a lot. You get a lot more guard play, and
you get the more like creative wrestlers at 55, but 170 is when you get like the strong arm.
Yeah,
like the
power stance forward wrestler. They can also, they have the speed to really move you around and the power to lift you up. I am kind of curious. Again, I think Mica takes this via sub. I'm kind of more curious about how the wrestling goes between these two, as far as that dynamic of the match versus how the actual finish is going to go.
And I like Kenta a lot. Unfortunately, even if Kenta can out wrestle Mica, I think that Mika's not going to allow Kenta to hold on to him very long.
Yeah. Go back and look at the the European finals. Andy Murasaki. Like, Andy Murasaki was able to turn Mica Galvão over with like a modified X guard sweep and a kind of leg trap.
Yeah.
It's possible.
But it doesn't matter.
Because you get Mica in the guard, and then he does a choi bar on you the minute you start to try to pass. Like that sort of dynamism. And he did it not even really off of the gi grips. Like, he did that choi bar in the same way that you would do it in nogi. Yeah,
and he did it like in a weird, like, he went from top to bottom. Like, he did the attack the arms, go after the legs, and then all of a sudden roll through to the arms.
Yeah. I think that you don't want to have... Even if Mika's in the guard, I think he has the quicker guard game, and it's more dynamic, and I think it's a speed thing versus Kenta. We've seen Kenta really like to pressure into guys a lot, really low, heavy passing, locking his hands together and coming around. He will do like outside quick passing, but he tends to do it more from like a power stance than from like almost like what Tackett will do. Like Tackett, like Andrew Tackett would be much quicker with it and like be more dynamic with the movement and not necessarily as powerhouse through you. Kenta would be much more in front of you and power through you. And I don't think that approach will work versus another power guy in Mica Galvão. Like, he's too quick for how strong he is to be able to get around him and hold him down in that position. I think Galvão here, we're going to choke or a transitionary flying armbar.
Yeah, I think an armbar of some sort.
Yeah. Do we think Kenta's going to be able to get Mickey down at all? Do you think he like swing outside, blast doubles him or through the legs?
I mean, he could, but I don't think that matters.
Yeah. Who's number one is?
I think it'll be. I think it'll be a fun match. But I don't think it's going to go the entire time.
I kind of agree, which sucks. I really like. I like Mica, but I also really like Kenta. And it's tough to see these kind of matchups where it's like, man, this is a tough. There's not many guys right now that I would favor at the weight class over Mica. And like, Cade's the only guy because Cade has a win over him, and even that was a really close match at ADCC. So, moving on. Nothing else on that one?
Nope.
Moving on, we have Women's Flyweight Championship. This was gonna be Fionn Davies versus Amanda Tubby Alequin. It is now Adele Fornarino.
Fornarino.
Adele.
Fornarino.
Yeah, versus Amanda Alequin. This is really interesting. I forgot how long Amanda has been a black belt.
Yeah, a long time.
Yeah, because again, go back if you ever want a primer on like how long Amanda has been doing this, go back and watch her like 2014 or 2015 trials run, and then go back and watch her 2015 ADCC match with Gabby Garcia in the plus 60 kilogram division. Like, go back and like, that's how long she's been doing this. She's been around a very long time.
Adele's relatively new to the game.
Australian black belt.
Yeah, but I mean, she wins divisions in non-American.
Yeah, and she's won trials before. We saw her.
Not saying
at the last ADCC.
There's any difference to that, but
we just don't see her as much.
Yeah, we don't see her as much. We don't see her, and she's not billed in any of the bigger tournaments in the United States, so we haven't seen her go against Amanda before.
Have we not really?
No, I looked it up. They have not.
Really?
They have not.
Okay, I was curious about that. Women's records are always super annoying to find because they're just not curated. I
think it's really
records.
I also think it's at 125 because that's flyweight.
Yeah,
and I feel like Fornarino is probably that size, but isn't Alequin bigger than that? Or
I
no?
think Tubby will bounce. I always muck up
I think
Tubby's
she
weight.
bounces because she went against Tammy Musumeci, and Tammy is like a 125 or when I think about it, or if not smaller than that.
Amanda is interesting coming into this match because she's been fairly active, but her most recent match was against Tammy Musumeci at 1FC.
Yeah.
And in that match, you called it out.
Yeah.
She decided to play that match significantly different than a lot of the matches we've seen before, where she's played a really heavy traditional guard game.
Yeah. So she kind of goes back and forth. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Amanda does have a very good record at who's number one.
Yeah.
She's had some really good matches, some really like bangers.
Amanda has a toehold win over Jessica Khan that Adele has a loss to.
Yeah.
So it's like that's a common opponent. And it's like for a lot of these matchups when we kind of are like, we're more unsure about the dynamic of the match. That's kind of what I always point to is like, okay, well, who have you beat that the other person has lost to, or who have you lost to the person's beat? And Amanda does have that win over Khan via toehold at the 20 I wish they would do another one of those. The Night of Champions.
Yeah.
We did all those divisional brackets.
But it was 2 days, remember?
Yeah, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was fun.
And they had a whole I wish they ran it faster.
Yeah.
But they had that whole consolation bracket that popped back in, like it was double elimination.
Yeah.
That whole event was super cool, and I wish they would do something like that again because we got a lot of like really cool matchups. And again, especially for the women's divisions, it added a bunch of folks that we see in the rankings to actually put them against each other.
And it was
matches.
fun to watch. I like brackets like that.
Yeah.
Especially when they're done at a better quality that you can watch it at nighttime. And, you know.
It was a really fun event. I really wish they did more of those. Again, I'm going to go with Tubby on this one. But again, having Adele have a breakout performance wouldn't surprise me here. She's won trials before. That puts you at...
Wasn't she second place at Euros recently? She either won it. No, I think she was second place at Euros.
I do not recall.
I'm almost positive, but that's here nor there.
Moving on to the men's lightweight championship. Oh, yeah, Dante has this. Dante Leon versus Diego Pato Oliveira. So we have our 55 champ going against our 45 champ at 55. Pato historically been mostly a 45er. Dante historically been mostly a whatever the fuck weight I want to be guyer.
Nah, she won. She won Pans.
She won Pans.
She won Pans as black belt.
Yeah.
But I thought she had been at Heroes, but maybe I'm wrong.
We're talking about Adele still.
Adele, sorry.
Yeah.
I always look.
Miranda's looking up stuff whenever we misspeak. Miranda tends to always look it up and try to figure it out.
It bothers my brain that I don't know the answer to these questions, so I always have to look things up because I'm like, what actually
it's
happens?
a little hard to keep track of about the 350 athletes we keep track of on a semi-regular
There's certain people
basis.
that I remember, but normally I have to remember for really like weird stuff. So, Dante Leon, I know his record because he went up to freaking super heavyweight.
Yeah, so we pulled Leon's record on the pre-show here, and last year, I'm going to give you only his losses. Lucas Lira at Absolute, Nogi Pans. Roberto Cyborg Abreu at Grappling Industries.
Which is...
End of list.
Okay, let's remember.
Next loss. Let's go to 2022. Mica Galvão, ADCC semifinals. Okay? You're going back 2+ years. And Dante Leon's not an inactive grappler.
And let's remember the Roberto Abreu Grappling Industries match was...
Close.
Was a weird one.
Yeah.
Like, no one knows really what happened in that match. There's no video of it.
There is.
There is?
Yeah, there's video of it.
Have you seen the video?
Yeah.
Because, like,
it was close.
Dante, like, lost his shit after that happened.
He was not happy.
Like, yeah, he was not
it
happy.
It was a very close match. So, that, again, that gives you...
I wonder if that's why he went up to 97, because he was like, I hope this fucker's here so I can take him out.
Because Cyborg was banned.
Oh, yeah,
Remember that?
I forgot about that.
So, let's go through wins for Dante. Jonathan Alves by triangle. He has a win over Devontae Johnson by points. He has a win over Lucas Lira in that same tournament at the weight class. Oh, yeah, when he went up to 97 kilograms. Yeah, super heavy for that division because it was the toughest division. He was like, I'll beat them. He has a win over Kenta Iwamoto at Aiga, 76. He has a win over Ethan Cronlston by Renika Choke at who's number 119. Win over PJ Barch at 24/7 Fighting, that event in Pittsburgh. Yeah. He has a win over Jefferson Gusari at Twisted Church. This is still 2023. I can go on. Tons and tons of wins.
He went against Jefferson Guaresi at Twisted Church?
Yes.
That's weird. That's a weird match right there.
He has a win over DeAndre Corbray, another win over PJ Barch. He has a win over Leon Jackson. Dante Leon has been winning a ton of stuff.
Yeah.
And Diego Pato has also been winning a ton of stuff, mainly only losing to back and forth with Baby Shark.
Yeah.
He got the 45-pound title at Who's Number One
Because of a weird injury.
because of a weird knee injury for Baby Shark. Again, not like he wasn't ahead in that match already, which he was. He was very close, and he potentially was ahead going into that ending stretch of the match.
Yeah.
But it was still a really weird kind of scenario. I don't want to make a gut pick here,
I'm going Dante.
but I'm going with Dante.
I'm going Dante.
Like Dante is struggling.
I think
struggling to make 55.
I think Dante could pick up Pato with one of his arms, like straight up into the air.
I mean, I think his bench press numbers, when we look at his bench press, show that he could do that. Yeah, he's one-arming 100-pound dumbbells in
more
the bench
than that.
press.
It was like 120, 130.
Yeah, something like that. Single-arm dumbbell press from the bench press. Like, Dante has gotten jacked. I think I do not think he will be at 55 for a huge amount longer.
No, and he has a nutritionist, so at least you know he's doing it correctly. So he's not going to be like, he's going to do it in a way that he's not going to be completely dead.
The next match we're seeing is Dante versus Mica if he wins. That's the next match.
You think that or Dalpra?
I don't think they're going to put Dalpra that quickly up to him.
You think so?
I don't think so. No, I think Dalpra's also much bigger.
Yeah, but they put Oliver Taza against him. Taza is a
65 or 85, right? Yeah. So as far as the dynamics of the match, I think here we're going to see Pato pull.
Yeah.
We're going to see him try to play for matrix guard. We're going to see him try to take the back off of it, and we're going to see Dante power forward and looking to pass. Pato has a phenomenal guard, but I just don't. I don't know. I know Pato can, but for the duration of the match, if he can deal with Dante's pressure.
Yeah.
Because I think this is going to be a little guy, not a little guy, there's going to be a size and strength disparity here in this match. Dante is cutting to get here. Pato is not cutting as much to get there. And
even in a situation where, let's say, Pato sweeps Dante is still good on his back.
He's still got an amazing guard in his own right. And then Pato being required to pass Dante Leon's guard, I mean,
you could create some problems there where you go like Pato pulls, he sweeps Dante goes down, and then Pato has to pass Dante and can't pass Dante.
Right.
And then that becomes a little bit different of a match.
And it's also with the scoring for who's number one.
So.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this from a pace perspective. I think both guys can actually keep a similar pace.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I just think with Dante coming in, again, I think is the significantly bigger guy. Significantly stronger guy for sure. That's not a doubt. Ain't a guy at 155 that is as strong as Dante Leon. I'm just curious if Pato, for the duration of that match, can put up enough offense on Dante's passing to win a decision. Because I think this goes decision. I don't see either one of these guys submitting. I think this goes decision, and it's mostly Diego knees to chest with outside looking for Mitch Guard, looking for De La Riva.
And I think Dante at least has had coaching around him and people around him that have taught him a very good developed passing strategies. He's not going to.
He's not a guy that's going to make a lot of mistakes in the passing.
And he's not a guy that has one or two passes that he does really well. And so if you block those two passes, he can't pass any longer.
Yeah, he's a pretty dynamic passer that has a lot of different options. He very much has his kind of preferences in passing.
Yeah.
But he also very much doesn't really care if you take those away because he has other options that are almost equally as good, even if they're not his favorite or his preference.
But he needs to cut his hair because he has some crazy looking hair in some of these pictures. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, again, I wish I kind of had more. I don't think they're going to wrestle. I give the edge to Dante in the wrestling. I think, again, Pato is going to be quicker just because he is the smaller guy here. But I just think that Dante is going to be able to having also been a smaller guy earlier in his career, will know how to play that game well and will be kind of
how to
pushed
power
over
out of things.
Yeah, and willing to power out of stuff. The only option I think Leon takes a pretty clear decision here, just with pressure and close attempts. I think Pato will be able to regard.
Yeah.
I am curious if they put it to the legs. if we go into a leg
Yeah.
lock battle here, I think that honestly could be really interesting. I think at some point we'll end up in 50-50.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see some actually neat 50-50 play between this match because I think both guys are very willing to do that.
Yeah.
We saw that in the Baby Shark match with Pato, and we've seen that repeatedly from Dante when he chooses to go there. It's not super frequent, but he can absolutely play a really good leg lock
Yeah,
game.
and he's probably going to be coached by
Heath.
Pedigo.
Yeah.
And Heath knows that game well. So
Mhm.
it's not like he's
We also have
coming-
Jacob Couch on the card
Yeah,
too.
he also has a background that, like, even though he might not be a prolific leg locker, he at least has someone in his
He was a
corner.
he had a really dynamic knee bar in his like purple belt days.
Oh,
I remember
okay.
seeing a lot of his when I first started like watching his game as a purple belt. I don't know what belt I was then, but I remember seeing he always had a really good knee bar. And that
But
was
you
always
like
cool.
knee bars,
I
so
do really like
pay
knee bars, so I
attention
pay
to
attention to that
shit,
kind of shit. But yeah, he's always had a really good knee bar, and we saw him earlier in his career develop that attacking sequence off of that.
Yeah.
And being very willing to throw that. He's been more gun shy with it later in his career.
Well, because he also allows you to take his back.
Yeah, and he has
lot of
amazing
things, yeah.
passing and pressure wrestling now that
Yeah.
he didn't have as much of before, and it's really he's way more dynamic now. Maybe less dynamic, but way better in the area that he chooses to have the fight. He doesn't have to be dynamic anymore.
Yeah.
So I think Leon takes it. I could see this actually becoming a really fun battle with Pato potentially trying to take the back at one point, but I just don't think Dante's gonna he'll be able to power through those attempts. We're gonna do a middleweight match, this is a fun match. We have Jacob Hillbilly Hammer Couch versus Sebastian Rodriguez. What are your thoughts? I think this is going to be...
This could be interesting. This could be weird in that they both may pull, and you might get a really weird, like, stally, who goes into whose guard first kind of deal. And then that almost benefits Couch, because I think Couch could roll into something in the legs and take Rodriguez out. Because I don't know if I'm not saying he won't stand, but I think Rodriguez is going to want to be the
guard player.
guard player.
Yeah.
And they might just both pull, and then there might be a little bit of a shuffle in that point to see who can do what.
I'm trying to think if I judged this match previously, because these guys were both in the absolute bracket for the ADCC World Open, like the day or two before ADCC World Championships 2022.
Let me check on Flow.
And these guys were both on and off my mat all day for the absolute, and I forget if they went against each other that day. But Sebastian Rodriguez, that entire day, that was one of the first times I really like saw him, and I was like, because everyone had like kind of pinned, watch this guy. And I gotten tapped a couple of times that day, like, hey, that guy's on your mat, watch that guy, he's really good, because people knew who I was judging.
Yeah.
I was the Grappling Rewind guy, like judging ADCC, and they were like, he's really good. And I remember him being very good and really impressing the shit out of me, but also that I think he pulled out eventually with a bad knee from that tournament. And I know that he's had some knee issues a couple times in his career at black belt. Jacob Couch is not really the guy that you want to be having a knee issue against.
Yeah.
Because he is the knee issue creator if you kind of give him the opportunity to do that.
I do not see them going against each other. At least that is on Flow.
Yeah, I don't
Normally
know if I don't
Flow-
remember if the match happened. But I know they were almost going to be, because I remember that the finals for that match was Andrew Tackett versus Jacob Couch was the final of that absolute for the ADCC World Open 20.
Oh, that was
22.
the whole Murillo incident.
Yes,
Ah.
because he was coaching
Yeah.
Sebastian and Jefferson.
Yeah.
That was that bracket.
Yeah. No, I was at a Nine Inch Nails concert waiting for you to show
Maybe
up.
I'm thinking of Jefferson Gracie with the knee brace.
Garesi.
Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
Garesi was the...
They were both on and off my mat all
Yeah.
day, and Murillo was right there coaching them all day.
Until the kick. Now, Sebastian Rodriguez has gone against Hunter Colvin. He's gone against a lot of different gentlemen, but I do not see him going against or have gone against Jacob Couch. Jacob Couch is also... wasn't he? No, I guess he always cut to 85.
He always cut hard to 85.
Yeah. That was always his thing.
Mm-hmm. Again,
So,
I'm
I don't know.
going Couch heel hook. I think there's
I'm
one
going
thing
Couch only because I don't go against Couch. There's certain people I don't bet
Couch
against.
loves to go and put on a show at who's number one.
Yeah.
Now, Sebastian Rodriguez, I think, beautiful passing.
Yeah.
And I think can pass Jacob Couch, especially if Couch plays wide with his guard. But we've seen, especially if you remember Jacob Couch's trials run, he played a pretty consistent game that entire weekend.
Yeah.
And he would play the open guard, but he would immediately be really diligent with bringing his hands back to the center, bringing his legs back to the center. He never got wide with his guard in a way that really let people push passing attempts on him. Elder Cruz kind of maintained a distance, and eventually Jacob Couch got just enough space to pull in, go false reap, get the heel hook. I kind of see him looking for that same strategy versus Sebastian Rodriguez here. I think he's going to force Rodriguez into the passer.
Yeah.
Or he's going to end the legs with Rodriguez as the seated player. And Rodriguez, I think, is definitely the faster guy here.
Yeah. I agree with
he's
that.
lankier. He's, Couch is a bigger, stronger dude, but Rodriguez is going to have the speed advantage here. But I think Couch is also weirdly quick for 85. And
even when he makes mistakes, you don't see many capitalize on the mistakes that he makes. If that makes any sense. He gets in trouble for a little bit and then he's out of trouble. Only do we ever see Gordon Ryan, who really was who
kind of put the pressure and pace into him.
I will kill you now.
Yeah.
But no one else really does that.
Yeah.
Really well.
I mean, go back and watch Jacob Couch's match versus Jay Rodriguez.
Yeah.
He just kind of pressured Rodriguez down, held him in position. Couch has a pretty imposing nature that he can play, being the stronger guy versus Rodriguez here. I kind of think he decides to play that, but I think we do see a lot of what we saw at ADCC trials in that he plays from the bottom, he looks for the heel hook, he gets the heel hook. So I'm going Jacob Couch here. Not going to bet against Couch, but it should be a really fun match versus Sebastian Rodriguez. Moving on to the preliminary match, the men's middleweight. Not preliminary match. The opener of the main card. We have Tainan Daupra versus Oliver Taza. And Tainan Daupra's second black belt no-gi match?
Yep.
His first match was against Troy Russell at who's number one.
Yeah.
Looked good against Troy Russell. Pretty quick match. Oliver Taza, I've talked about it for a long time. We've talked about it for a long time. Is one of the best measuring sticks for can you and your team make an effective game plan for a guy who is world class in a specific set of areas. But if you push him out of that,
and knows how to funnel you into that area.
Yes, Oliver Taza, I've said it for a long time, is one of the best guys in the world at the spin through inverted heel hook and knee bar combination. That is almost a guard that he plays on you. He's got good wrestling. He's got a good roll through. He's got a good mind for the way he needs to be scoring.
And he has really good passing.
Yes.
You just don't see it as often.
Mm-hmm. He has a bunch of really good aspects of his game, but he really, given his druthers, wants to play from the bottom with the underhook guard and shoot into your legs for the inverted heel hook and knee bar. That is what he wants. And I think versus Tainan Daupra, that is what AOJ and Daupra's team will have to have planned against. And I think, unfortunately for Taza, that team is one of the best in the world at specific game plans.
Didn't you watch at trials when Cole Abate did trials back in the day when he was a blue belt? Mm-hmm. Them watching matches in the back. So
before his final with Keith Krikorian, so I was media back then for the trials. Been media for a couple of trials now. And I was watching.
We had coach passes, so we were wandering around endlessly.
I was sitting behind the Mendez brothers. I think it might have been Guy Mendez and Cole Abate. And Cole Abate was a child. He was 17 or something, 15 or however old he was when he won trials. And they were about to go against Keith, and they were watching matches of Keith.
Yeah.
Beforehand, and they were making comments. I'm okay. They were talking about game planning for Krikorian going into that match, and I was like, that is wild. That just happened to be sitting directly in front of me on the other side in the coaches area. And I was like, oh, this is wild to watch in real time, them talk in Portuguese about what he's doing and how he's doing it and making a game plan.
Tainan was the opposite, because I was behind them for Pans, I want to say 2 years ago, and he was chilling with all the people in the stands.
Yep.
He had his gis laying out, and he would just right before his match, he would just get up, get his shit, and just walk down. And it was like, it was so nonchalant that if you didn't really know who he was, you didn't realize, oh, that's your champion right
That's
there.
Tynan.
That's like, and he was like 2 rows in front of me. He would just completely undress, and I was like, hey. And then he would just like sit there for a little bit, watch match, put his gi back on, wander back down.
I remember sitting next to the Menez brothers. It was like, it was Nogi Pans in New York, like 2016. And like we sat down, we got there way early because I was literally the first match of the day. And they just sat like right next to us, and they just played around the light room and, you know, like photo editing all day while they coached off and on, just like next to us. And I was like, oh, this is a weird, and occasionally people come up with them for pictures, and it was like, oh, this is just a weird jiu-jitsu experience. But back to game planning, unfortunately for Oliver Taza, I think that team at AOJ are the best or the top 5 game planners in the sport, like specific game planners. And Oliver Taza, even at New Wave with another team that has great game planners, seems very committed to that consistent style. Like Taza's game has looked very, very similar for a long time. And he's very, very good at it, and he beats most people. But when he runs into some of those like really upper echelon world level guys that do have those big camps behind them, like Tynan Daupra, in a match where AOJ is very, very carefully moving him through his no-gi career.
Plus it's in Costa Mesa.
And where Costa Mesa.
And where is AOJ?
Costa Mesa.
Costa Mesa.
Yeah. It's a really rough match for Oliver Taza. I don't know. We're not going to see Daupra in the legs. This will not be a match that we see Daupra play into the legs.
No.
I think Taza will potentially be able to get him into the legs once, but we'll see Daupra get off. I do think we'll see Daupra have to work through Taza's guard at least, like, obviously once, but potentially twice. I don't know if we're going to see...
Daupra normally doesn't make too many mistakes, so it really doesn't take him long to learn how to pass someone's guard. You watch him kind of make a mistake or two and then readjust himself. And then
never make a mistake. You see him like plan out and figure out, okay, you're going to do this here, you're going to do this here.
Well, not make a mistake, but realize that something isn't working. And he'll come back and he'll restart the process all over again. But you don't see him really stop that process, and you see him be able to beat and understand.
You also don't see him ever get flustered by the process, where he he never goes like, oh, that doesn't work. He doesn't ever goes back to the thing that's not working. He like gets the information he needs out of it not working, and then we'll do a gator roll and just fix the problem.
Yeah, and the one loss that we've seen him in his black belt career,
Jansen Gomez, where like, oh, he had the underhook a little wide, and then he was able to get underhooked on the turn. That was it, and that was the one points scoring loss we've seen him have.
Yeah.
For this match, I think we're going to see him be able to pass Oliver Taza's guard. I don't know if we're going to be able to see him submit Taz. I assume we would, but I really think like Taz is a really hard guy to get his back. Yeah. Especially in Nogi, where Taza has so much experience.
The last Nogi Daupra win we have was that like
Troy Russell.
Yeah, was the triangle armbar thingy.
Yeah. You think I think he's going to go for a top position here. I'm curious with how much leg locks Taza likes to play, how we'll see Daupra decide to hold the mount.
Yeah. Because
I don't think Taza will let him keep the back for any length of time.
Yeah.
He could, and he could surprise me here, but I think Taza's just a notoriously hard guy to keep his back. So Daupra is probably going to elect to control and mount, but Taza likes to do that kipping and get underneath you to go into leg locks like a lot of the old DDS guys do. I'm curious how much of a high guard high mount Tynan will play, and if we'll see him take an armbar over the top, which is kind of what I think would be a mounted armbar variation that he falls off for. But again, if Oliver Taza can absolutely play spoiler to all of this, I just think that my faith really is in Tynan, but also in the AOJ team to game plan for this specific matchup, and Taza's being willing to, go up to 85, which he kind of sits anywhere between 65 and 85. Yeah. Like he bounces in those weights, but this is still on the larger side of the matchups that he's going to take. Tynan, I think, is pretty comfortable at 85. So the cards are very much stacked in Daupra's favor here. I'm going to actually look at the odds here. Odds for this are minus 300 Daupra and plus 235 for Taza. So again, pretty wide margin for Tynan there. I think that's not unreasonable.
No.
I think, I kind of think he subs. But watching Taza be incredibly hard to submit also wouldn't surprise me either. But get out of some stuff that Dauper puts him in. And Dauper have to counter out, but I think the pull that Dauper has is great.
The other thing is Dauper normally doesn't hit you with a single submission. Like, it's a triangle into an armbar, or it's something else into something else. It's those submissions that are chain submissions where if he can't get you in one submission, he's going to go for the second one. Yeah. It's that second one, and he chains them all together.
Very good combination submission.
Yeah, in a way that you're defending so often that something is going to stick.
Yeah. So.
Oh, I forgot to show you the thing I have clicked down there. How I know the one guy.
Okay. Let's moving on to the preliminary card. We have men's welterweight match.
We'll get to it.
Elijah Dorsey versus Ivan Herrera. This is Elijah Dorsey, ADCC East Coast Trials winner, win over Nicky Ryan, who surprised everyone except anyone who was on TLI. Elijah Dorsey plays, we saw him at Europeans.
Yeah.
He plays a score game, and then he will wait you out.
Yeah.
And he'll stall you out, and he will play within the bounds of the rules to beat you by his game plan. Yeah. And that's sort of how all the TLI guys do that. Ivan Herrera is a brown belt under Barrett Yoshida. Normally a featherweight, you said. This is what this was the notes that you found.
That's what I found on his teaching stuff, because he's also like a jiu-jitsu teacher.
Yeah.
But that could be fighting at featherweight, which
wouldn't make sense.
Which would make sense.
Yeah.
MMA fighter. He was at ADCC Trials, East Coast Trials. He did lose in round 2.
Yeah.
As opposed to Elijah, who won the division.
And that's unfortunately like my analysis kind of stops there. Yeah. Like, okay, Elijah won, beat all his way through day 1, day 2, and then beat Nicky Ryan, and it was a weird match, and I he did beat him, absolutely. It was just a really weird performance from Nicky Ryan, like because he didn't eat or whatever other things were going on. I would love to see that one run back, honestly. That one's a really interesting match to see.
We need Nicky Ryan to not be hurt.
Yeah, well, that's hopefully going to happen soon, but that's historically not been the case. Trials winner versus someone who is unable to make it into the finals of Trials. I think that's sort of that's where the analysis lies. I think that Elijah Dorsey takes this probably by submission.
I think it's gonna be the whole match. I think it's.
You think it's points?
Yeah.
You think it's just not points, a decision here?
I think he's gonna. Yeah. I think he's gonna point fight him, even though it's not points. He's still gonna point fight him.
Get 2 points. Lay on top. Stay on top.
Yeah.
Look for the back, kind of.
Maybe
and then
maybe play with him a little bit now, and then maybe play a dynamic passing game, but not really pass.
Yeah,
like act like he's going to pass, but not really pass.
Yeah, play the outside game with the knee cut.
Kind of like what he did at Euros.
Yep, and kind of what he did at ADCC Trials. Yeah. Like that's really a game that we see him play a lot, where it's like almost committed, a little bit like we see from Dorian Oliveira's, but with like much less distance movement. Yeah. Whereas like I'm kind of sit and camp in that spot. So it's. I want to say that we're going to see him because there is the standing difference. We're going to see him play more, but recently in the matches we've covered Elijah, and that's sort of been his MO, and so unfortunately I kind of think probably see that here again. Moving on, we have a men's lightweight match, Max Hansen versus Daniel Souther. Max Hansen, who has basically
won every division known to man.
He basically has every belt in every.
But that makes sense because him and Dante are buds.
Yeah, I don't want to call them B-level organizations, but every every super fight organization that's not like BJ Bet, BJ Stars, Flow. Max Hansen has the Finishers Championship, both finishers. Max Hansen has every regional belt that you can get.
Yeah, and he normally has 2. Because like at
2 to 3.
At finishers, he's like 55 and 70. Right?
Yeah, and he'll jump in like other stuff versus Daniel Slather.
Yeah.
Slather is a black belt under Andre Galvão. You said he's from Brazil.
Yeah.
By the way, full credit to Miranda here. Anytime I have a fun fact about an athlete, whenever Miranda is on the show,
it's normally mine.
That is
randomness.
90%, if not more, a Miranda fact that she has found and pulled into the Grappling Rewind notes. So big thanks to you for that.
It's because I'm a weirdo and I like weird shit.
But I tend to take the point on the show and read through them. But I'm like, I want to give you credit where credit's due.
And then you read it, and you're like, what the fuck? Why did she talk about?
Why is that on?
Because this is what Miranda wants to talk about.
Yeah. So that's the only reason I have that information for Daniel. I love seeing Max Hansen. I think this is he won one of the finishers events to get this shot on who's number one.
Who, Max?
Yeah.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Which
I
love to see.
I thought somebody else won them, but maybe it was Max.
I think it was Max. Yeah.
Because it was that finishers thingamajig.
Yeah, it was the finishers Money in the Bank thing that they did that was winning a thing into the trials.
I thought that was somebody else that I had never heard of.
Max Hansen's a lot of fun, frequent competitor. As you put it, boys with Dante Leon.
Yeah.
So that puts him in the room with Dante Leon.
And he puts all of it. He is one of those people that on Instagram will tell you like exactly every tournament he's doing. And I forget, he put up his record. And I was like, holy shit, like, boy, like, and it was like who he won against and like what, you know. Like,
he does what every athlete should do, which is like keep track of what you're doing and then post about it if you're doing really well. It makes Max Hansen's one of the easiest guys to follow because he does the work for you as a journalist and like, yep, here's who I went against. Here's when I'm competing. Like he had a post beginning of the year that was basically laid out his tournament dates of like, hey, if you want to see me, this is when I'm competing, where I'm competing. And I love that because it's easy to follow. Don't know a ton about Daniel, but know a lot about Max, so it'll be a fun match for both guys. I'm going with Max mainly on familiarity because, again, he has all the regional belts, like the Infinity belts. Yeah. He has all of them, so I'm not going to bet against Max Hansen.
He does have like if it was Infinity Stones, he would be.
He has like 2 belts in every regional.
I feel like if it's like you give him money, he's like, I will do it.
Because he also I'll be there. I'll be there.
He also did like this sort of local tournament in Pennsylvania, like over by Pittsburgh recently, and they were trying to find people for him, and it was hilarious because I'm like, dude, anybody who goes against him is gonna get destroyed. Yeah.
Like, let's put a local game. So we're in the super fight scene a lot. To non sequitur here. Yeah. Occasionally you see we'll get a message from like, hey, anyone's going against this guy? I was like, some local guy's about to have a lesson in
a bad day.
About a lesson in like what a guy about to go into the world level looks like. So yeah, it'll be a fun match. Great preliminary match for who's number one. This is again what the preliminary matches should be. Are guys on the rise that we like to see, like Max, and again Daniel's here as well. Again, no slouch either. You don't get a black belt from Andre being a slouch. Like everybody from Atos who's a black belt has never been an easy match. So it'll be a fun match for Hansen and Daniel. We have a women's strawweight match. Ashley Ferenga versus Marlon Cruz. You want to take this one?
Yeah. So Marlon Cruz is a brown belt, also under Barrett Yoshida, because he seems to have all his people there.
Costa
silver,
Mesa.
Yeah, silver at 2023 Nogi Worlds, gold at 2023 World Master. She kind of goes between gi and no-gi. I haven't seen a lot of her, but she's also, I think she's a master competitor, so we probably wouldn't cover her.
Usually,
as much.
We stick to black belt adult most of the time.
Unless it's somebody who really used to be a black belt adult that has now decided to go into masters and just
Lovato,
kill people.
Barrett Yoshida.
Yeah.
Cartera.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
On that list?
Meows.
And
then
Lucas Pinheiro.
Ashley Fungera, is that what you said?
I screwed it up, but I think Fungera is correct.
Yeah, she 17-year-old purple belt from AOJ. We saw her sister Mia do the last Who's Number One card.
That's who Kolobade's dating.
Yeah, and the two of them are twins.
And there's three of the Fungera sisters. 2 of them are twins. Yeah. One of them is not a twin. I think does jiu-jitsu, but not to the level that Ashley and Mia do.
The two of them always have like the matching hair.
Yeah.
You always see. I saw them everywhere. Like
I am unable to tell. It's the Rotolo brothers problem.
Yeah.
But before Cade got his hair blown out and then Ty got like clean cut.
Yeah.
It's that problem of like, oh, you guys are very young. Yeah. 16, 17, and look very similar.
And they're almost the same size.
Yes.
Rotolo's at least one's a little bit bigger.
Yeah, but when they were at ADCC, they were very close to the same size, and then Ty was a little bigger and Cade was a little smaller, and that's what they did there.
I think it'll be very difficult for Miss Cruz to get anywhere with Ashley.
Yeah, I very rarely see, not very rarely, but like to have a memorable purple belt where it's like I'm remembering a purple belt's name is uncommon because we cover so many, about 250 black belts.
Yeah, but the reason why we know these two girls, even though they're 17, is because they're twins, number one. And number two,
Yeah.
they close out like every single major that exists. Every juvenile major that exists, they're doing it and they win it.
It's like A and B and Nick. Oh, name. Okay,
Yeah.
yep, that makes sense.
And you see them everywhere.
So I'm very, very curious about this strawweight match. Again, we're going to see the Fringetta sisters quickly go to brown and quickly go to black probably in the next 2 years. So this will be a really interesting match if they decide to kind of stay on, if they decide to stay at this level as they move through. It'll be interesting. We also have the opening match of the card. We have a men's middleweight match. We have Dory Odin versus Kyle Chambers.
Yes. We know Kyle Chambers.
We do know Kyle Chambers.
He had the longest match ever.
Close up there with Isaac Michel. He recently had a match with Andy Varela where Varela beat him in ADCC.
That was rough. That was
because Andy Varela is Andy Varela, and just like makes
open.
your life miserable the entire time that you're not Andy Varela.
Yeah, he tools you,
dude. I don't know much about Dory, but we haven't seen Kyle in a while, and I think the last time we saw Kyle in Who's Number One was that Who's Next final with Isaac Michel. That was that they eventually did us the disservice and put it in a broom closet at the end.
I was asleep at that point.
Yeah, I've had many discussions about that card and that match, and
Kyle Chambers is very good, talented gentleman, very long, lanky, but Dory is a checkmat black belt.
Okay.
He was also a former collegiate basketball and football player, and he is the guy who at purple belt standing guillotined his partner at an IBJJF and then walked around with him in the air until he tapped.
This guy.
That guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
Okay,
I know. That's
so what you can't see here.
And I tagged the video because I knew Maine would know the video and he saw it.
Is in our notes. Miranda and he goes, "This is him," and it's a link, and then it is a link to a Senso BJJ article from Gracie Mag. Guy locks him rear naked choke and carries his opponent around and finally gets the tap. It's basically, and he carries him around like a baby carrier,
like by his head.
Yeah, and then eventually just taps the guy, and that's who that is. This will be fun. Kyle Chambers is super dangerous. He tends to be a little inactive and plays a very counterpunchery kind of game.
But Dory is going to have Lucas Leche.
Yeah, in his corner.
Yeah, and Lucas Leche is amazing. Like, I the reason why I always talk about him is if you listen to the coaching, because you will hear Lucas Leche coaching.
Yeah, very distinctive voice.
Like, he's very distinctive, and you can hear him most of the time. He is very good at game planning. He's very good at knowing how his people and what his people need to do to win. So I think that, and then I think he was a former collegiate basketball and football player. You can't tell me that's not imposing.
No, I think this is a match of two styles. This is either Kyle Chambers, you overcommit on Kyle Chambers and he snatches something up.
Yeah.
Because Kyle Chambers has a great flash sub game. Like one of the best flash sub games. But if Dory can deal with that, he can impose on Chambers. But again, Chambers is notoriously a hard guy to impose on because
he's lanky.
He's lanky and he's crafty.
And he can give you that. There's a space that he can put you in where you're not at that like long range and you're at the short range. You're in like this middle weird range that you don't really know.
That Chambers loves and that you're not used to.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
But if Dory watched the last matches with Varela, and just like plays the
but can you be Andy Varela? And that's like not a lot of guys can.
But you can try to grab his head and
right.
I don't know if he grabs his head and tries to guillotine him. Kyle Chambers might still be standing.
Yeah, Chambers is a very tall man. So this will be a fun one. It'll be a good one to open the main card. I hope that we see more activity from Chambers than we saw in the Who's Next.
Yeah.
His ADCC matches have been a little of both. Not familiar with Dory, but it'll be a really interesting match. Again, Chambers is very, very good. Has some of the best flash subs. And Dory has that very famous rear naked choke carry around. So should be fun. That's all I got, Miranda. Anything else you want to bring on the Who's Number One?
Nope.
22 card in Costa Mesa, California.
Is it?
It's interesting they're in California, not in the Flow headquarters in Austin.
They're in the hangar.
Yep, they're in this hangar. I like this venue. It's a cool venue. Should be a ton of fun. Let's really quickly, before we end the show, let's talk about the Fight to Win 245. It wasn't the main event, but it was, I think, probably Helena Cravar is the biggest name on the card.
And Clay Mayfield.
Clay Mayfield's big. Yeah. There's some of the big names on the card, but I want to talk about the match. It was Helena Cravar versus Hermione Medina. It was a blue belt match because we all kind of forget that Cravar is still a blue belt.
Yeah.
And Fight to Win.
Nagi.
Fight to Win matches you up with your belt. They're like, yeah, I don't know, you're still that. They match you up.
Could you imagine that?
Dude, Cravar pulls guard, gets the 2-on-1 grip, pulls the hand across, goes reverse triangle.
Yeah.
Goes reverse triangle, and then switches the triangle to same side triangle.
She's long as legs.
Super long legs. She's in your absolute division next weekend.
Yes, she is.
She's ranked number 1. You're ranked number 3,
Yeah.
which is funny.
Out of 20.
And then Helena finishes the triangle, and that was the entire match. She retains her Fight to Win title. I think very quickly we'll see her again go in the purple belt, on the brown belt route. She will potentially be on the other side of the bracket versus Grappling Run show host Miranda here at ADCC.
If it happens, it happens. If it happens, I'm putting my hair up in pigtails. If you see some pigtail girl get destroyed, it's probably me.
You got to go with confidence. Like, look, she's only 20.
That's what I mean. I'm gonna try to mess with her head. I'm gonna put the same pigtails.
Pull guard too and do this. Yeah.
No, I'm not gonna do that because that just like run through me.
So
I'm gonna play my I will make you hate me game, which I'm sure she's used to.
Probably very, very used to.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun. Next weekend we have ADCC. Zach and I are doing commentary on Copa Elite 3. If you happen to be in the Virginia area, come by. It's always a really, really great really great event. It's $2,000 cash prize, absolute division. I think the registration for that is still open. Is a registration if you want to throw your name into that. I think it opens until Wednesday. It's again a cool tournament. It's really, really well done. Zach and I have a really good time commentating it.
Big stage and everything.
Big stage. It's almost like a smaller version of Fight to Win in a big theater space. It's a really cool event. I can't talk as well about it enough. We've done it for a couple of years now. This is the third pro one they've done. They do a lot of like local ones, but this is the third pro one they've done.
420, they're coming to Baltimore.
Yep. Josh is on the card as well, Grappling Rewind.
Oh yeah.
So it should be a lot of fun. ADCC is coming up this next weekend. I'm trying to pick through and find the schedule of what else we have coming up.
Did you back up real quick. Toronto Open. Did you see the guy? And I'm not saying this creepily. I'm saying this because it was creepy in the bad way. The guy in
I saw
in the little Speedo.
Yeah. Dennis Hallman.
Yeah, yep. I Googled him because I wanted to see what he was. He was like some kind of like judo champion, like not American.
So what Miranda's referring to is at the last Open, there was a man who decided to wear a Speedo, essentially.
No, it was a Speedo.
It was a Speedo.
It said Speedo.
To ADCC. And ADCC is like, hey, man, you came to fight. You can do whatever you want.
He had a high guard on this one guy, and I'm like, dude, that's...
I was like, man, I it's not my favorite thing to see, but I love the ADCC's like, and I don't care what you wear, go out and fight. Want to wear wrestling shoes? Cool. Want to wear a gi? Cool.
I screenshotted it because I was trying to find out what his name was because I wanted to see who he was. And yeah, he was...
Yep. So that happens. Welcome to ADCC.
That
love it.
That was something.
We have
and that was not me hitting on him, so just,
we have
clear that up. Not my type.
ADCC Atlantic City Open February 10th. You're going out to a bunch of teams going out to. Fight to Win 246 February 16th. We have February 17th ADCC European, Middle East, and African trials coming up. The second trials will be the second trials for that region. Getting very excited. We are only a few months away from the World Championships in Las Vegas, Nevada. We also have February 24th. We have Miami Open 3-versus-3 duels and the Flow Grappling GP at the end of the month on February 29th. It is one of those years with February 29th.
The Miami Open thing, isn't that the Finishers event? I think it's a Finishers event.
I think it is.
Because Finishers is doing the
Combat Sports coverage.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Finishers is doing a Miami event too.
Yeah. Zapatero is.
No.
Finishers is.
Finishers is.
Yep, at Finisher at Miami.
Yeah.
So, Miranda, you got anything else? We're going to go out and train actually right now. And
I don't think so. I think that's all I got going on.
All right. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host.
Miranda.
And we are the Grappling Rewind. Saying that, where it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
let us know.
Reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.